Hi, everybody. My name is Sarah, Pearls of Wisdom and Food with Keto, Carnivore, Carnivish, and any other food program, because we talk about the dynamics related to your food program, not necessarily what your food program is, what types of food that you have, how they affect you. Is this addictive? Is this a habit? Do I even know I'm eating it anymore? Or events, which of course are this time of year, where we find ourselves in situations that if it was the end of April, we might not be there. And so there's challenges and choices. And if you've made decisions, going with the decisions that you've made. So when the choice comes at you, you'll know, is this the day that I decided that I would have something, and I noted it and I tracked it and I put it in my chronometer, anything like that, where you have the accountability of like knowing you're having something that might be considered a treat? Or are you one of those that likes to remain totally abstinent through this season because one bite, 1,000 bites are never enough and one bite is too many? And a lot of you know that one bite is too many from too many of your own personal story tales, right? We all know that we thought we could handle something, that we're big, we're grown up, it's okay. And what do you know? Are you having your cuppa? I've got a little left. That is VitaCup Genius Blend. Do I sound smatta? Wicked smatta? And it has 12 grams of Dr. Bronner's coconut oil, and that I got at Whole Foods. I love it. And 42 grams of Keto unsweetened creamer, non-dairy, in it, and salt. And that is my go-to yummy blend of a cup of coffee. I love my first cup of coffee in the morning. It's a wonderful thing. Where's my voice? Did my voice check out? Anyway, so here we are. Yes, it's a challenging time. Whatever decision you've made, I'm here to support you, help you, and it strengthens my resolve too. Because when I say I'm not going to eat something or have something, I like to know that that is indeed the way that I'm going. And I think as a community, communities don't binge and relapse on food. People do, right? So if you think of yourself as part of the community, then you're not going to binge and relapse or cheat or have a treat or mistreat your body, whatever way you have of looking at yourself. And so that's how we go along. And sometimes we disappoint ourselves, sometimes we disappoint others. I know that that's true. I've made decisions and choices that I've gone against, that I've betrayed my own choice. I've betrayed with choices and decisions. We're talking mostly economic type things, not food things. And it's funny because I've never heard Greg say, "I'm never eating that again." That just, whoa, that's that didn't. It's something that we talk about here when we find, we think we've discovered, identified all the kryptonite in our life with certain foods, and then suddenly we realize, oh, this kind of falls into that same category. I'm working with somebody right now that like, oh, yeah, maybe this isn't such a good idea. It's kind of like how I've gone along before, and suddenly this is no longer working. This item has now turned into a relatively big habit slash binge, even if it's not a, I think a lot of us think of, I don't know, I always think of a golden retriever with his bowl of kibbles with like a half a can of dog food on top of it, the wet stuff, and how they just dive into it. That's how I think of a binge, but a binge is not as cute as that, is it? We find ourselves just kind of giving into something First, the head games. It's just, not a fun place to be. We're not safe. We're not in control. There's no voice of reason. There's no logic. There's no sanity involved. It is completely, I mean, to me, I call my addict Ms. Slick. It's like Ms. Slick is just in there and, grabbing the serenity, the contentment, the whatever, because over here is something that is challenging me. And so it talks and it talks. And I used to do that back when I had the standard American diet. There were things I kept in the freezer that I thought were safe because they're in the freezer. They're not going to get to me. Well, they talked right through that darn freezer door, and they weren't safe. They ended up not safe. And I learned, I know it's a duh for a lot of us, but if I don't buy that and put it in the freezer, then it won't talk to me. Okay? And now all of these new brands that are out that are keto friendly, they aren't friendly to an addict. They aren't friendly to an addiction. And so the fact that I was addicted to the sugar version, the standard American diet version of it in the freezer, and I ate it and then it was gone, and then I'd buy it again thinking, oh, I've got control. Sure, I'll use a measuring cup. Excuse me. Excuse me while I laugh. Nope, that didn't happen. And so now they've got all of these out. And, I've seen a lot of people in our community, the Keto Carnivore Carnivish community, review these items. And it's like, I always wonder, okay, you've reviewed the 6 different flavors of this item. Now what are you going to do with the rest of it? Just asking. It wouldn't be safe around me. And so it no longer exists in my world of like what an edible food is. And through the years, it's slowly gotten shorter and shorter. And as a lot of mostly carnivore type people say, they said it probably when they got to keto too. I am so happy with the short list of what I can have. After all those years of all of those other things, always being a challenge, always, aiming at me. And I, took that bullet between my eyes and opened up the freezer. And there I was with the spoon, no dish needed. It's like, what do I have to wash at the end? Just the spoon, right? No. And so we learn as we go. And sometimes the simplest act of no longer having it in the house is pretty much the cure. Oh, I'm not going to, it's never been beyond me to go out in my pajamas seeking more of the drug, right? I know my foods and I am a drug addict with them. That's my drug of choice, are naughty foods. And I would go out in my pajamas, my bathrobe, my sweats. I still do errands in them sometimes when I feel like it, or I can get away with it when it's dark out, right? When it's nice and dark, I can get out there. Yeah, go to the bank, deposit things. So, anyway, that's how we have to be careful, not having it in the house and not kidding ourselves that we can now handle something like that we never could handle before. And now suddenly it's like, oh, I guess I can't handle it, can I? So once you realize that, it can be a simple act of removing the item from your personal space, your home, your apartment, your condo, your kitchen, your shared space with somebody else. It's just like, I can no longer have it. If you saw what I live with, meaning the other foods, you would say, how can you do that? I've done that when I was doing a little video of what I was eating during the day, or for my OMAD. Behind it would be all of Greg's stash, and it's non-food to me. I guess this is a good time to bring up squinting. Squinting is that fine art of not seeing something. So if you live with somebody, you share space with somebody, you share refrigerator space, cupboard space, freezer space with somebody, and they don't have your issue, then you have to respect that they can have certain things. I know that Greg buys novelties, not the pints of the things that I was referring to before, or the half gallons. And so I have no desire for a novelty. Isn't that weird? And if I did, I'd have to practice the squint because they live in the freezer, right? And so for me, it always came in the pints. And so I have to be careful. But there's other things that he probably has in his area on the bistro table, and I'm telling you, it's a pretty big chunk of the real estate of the table. I practice squinting, and I've practiced squinting so long that I don't even see it. And it's the first thing. It's funny if somebody comes into the house that's got similar food issues, or at least is a foodie, maybe not dealing with their issues, but just as a foodie. They zero in on that. It looks like picture Las Vegas, except it's bags and containers of of the things, right? Not the hotels and all the resort parts. And so I don't see it anymore. I can't see it. It's up to me to be the big girl and, notice this. My eyes pop open when I go into the butcher shop on Fridays, and I see all the different, types of meat to purchase, and that's when my eyes pop out of my head. There's no squinting. I have to, and because it's a Brazilian butchery, I have to ask, what is that cut of meat and what do you do with it? Because the Portuguese is how it's listed. And there's one that said like butt, and then another one said top flap of certain meats. And it's like, are those like a slow roasting sort of thing? And, one of them, he said, because huge Chirovac packs. And it's like, what do the Brazilians love with this? And he said, oh, they buy hunks of it, they slice it thin, they fry it up, and they put it into like cheesesteak. And it's like, well, that really doesn't have an appeal to me. I guess I'm pretty much the steak person, and then every now and then the slow roast, like chuck roast, boneless short ribs and things like that. But anyway, it's just kind of funny. So, yep, it's there. So learning to survive this season or in your household with other people's choices, OPC, is something that we just have to, do. It's not like the world should, it's like the alcoholic that now has to take a different route to get to work because there's 6 liquor stores that he would find himself going into on a daily basis. And of course, you're getting the idea. If you go to 6 different ones, then nobody will ever figure out that you have a drinking problem, right? Because it's like, that's Monday, that's Tuesday. And so suddenly they can't go that way to their job or whatever they have to do. They have to take different non-liquor store routes. And sometimes they get pouty and petulant about it. Just as we can get pouty and petulant about, say, this time of year. It's not up to the world to like cancel Christmas. I'd like it canceled for other reasons than the food, but that's part of it. And so we have to get along in the world. And so for me, that's been squinting. That's been saying no, thank you. That's knowing that 1,000 bites of that item on the table that is a binge food of mine is only going to get me in places where, I don't like myself. I don't like that it happened. I'm disappointed, and things like that, versus not taking that bite. How do I not take that bite? I find that things like this are my savior in this time of year. I will always have the mineral water, and yes, I'll drink it out of a bottle because I know it's mine and it's labeled, because I don't want to get into a place, for me, with alcohol as well as, the goodies on the table that are all legal. If you go to any 12-step meetings, you'll find that they exist on nothing but the bad oils, sugar, and white flour. It's just part of the deal. And so that's how they treat their sobriety sometimes, is just trading in one sugar for another. But for a lot of us here, it means no sugar. We go from the white deadly poison of sugar to the artificial sweeteners, to the alternative sweeteners, and we use those as crutches or as a lifestyle for as long as we need to. But we know that, there may come a time when finally a review, a report of the dangers of artificial sweeteners will like permeate us, and we'll go, that's not good for me. That diet soda with that artificial sweetener is not good for me. I'm going to work on it. For some people, it's the Band-Aid theory. Pull it right off. It stings for a bit and then it goes away. You rub it and it's like, okay. For other people, it's the tapering down. It's going from a liter a day to a bottle a day, to a bottle only on occasion, to not having it in the house, buying mineral water. Some people buy flavored soda waters. They're not nutritionally, there's no benefits, but like the mineral water has the electrolytes in it. So, but we do that. So anyway, the point is giving up something. For some of us, it's immediately, it's like, cold turkey, as we say. For other people, it's a slow tapering, like with smoking, like with gum chewing, like with diet sodas. We slowly ease our way out of it, because it finally comes to us that this is probably a habit, probably, an addiction in itself. I mean, they say the people addicted to diet sodas, it's an addiction in itself. And it's like, but it's not hurting me. Well, you don't know. We don't know with those artificial sweeteners. But the point is it's become a habit, an addiction. And maybe if you're getting, signals that it's time to do something about it, then it's time to do something about it. If it's suiting your purpose, it did for me. My alternative sweeteners in my coffee suited my purpose for years. It was like, good girl, look at you. You're not having the pink, purple, pink, blue, and yellow packets, but you're having the Xyla and the erythritol. And I knew it was time to give them up. So they were just going in here. I wasn't doing any keto baking or anything like that when I was, there. But then I gave up the sweetener in this. And so it was a step. And, I kind of feel out of the woods with it. Do I find anything different? I don't know. I just, every day I feel a wee bit better. I think that the whole question of oxalates is a whole different story for another time. But I think that they remain in the body for quite a while, even if you've stopped having them. So it's all different. That's a whole other subject. But here I wanted to talk about the squinting and the decision to not have something, or have something in a, maybe a social situation that you're not comfortable with. And so that awkwardness comes out. And so all of a sudden it's like I'm standing over that bowl and I'm halfway through the bowl and I'm going, yeah, I did it. I had a mini binge and I didn't even realize that it's because I'm socially uncomfortable in the new me. Yeah, big deals, right? So we do it an item at a time, or a food group at a time. It's a fascinating thing, but we have a community. And just remember, communities don't relapse. Communities don't binge. Individuals do. People do. So if you think of yourself as part of this community, and most of the community has chosen not to do that, you're part of that community. Isn't that great? I love it. So I will see you next time here on Pearls of Wisdom and Food with Keto Carnivore Carnivish. Thanks so much for watching. Bye-bye for now.